It's January 16th, 2020, and you're listening to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable.
Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, seen from again.
Hello and welcome to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Quinn, coming to you, as always, from Studio B here at the Co-Prosperity Sphere in beautiful Bridgeport, Chicago, the community of the future, as I'm consistently told by the powers that be here at Lumpen Radio. And speaking of Lumpen Radio, thanks to the fearless leaders of this station for having us on yet again. Mr. Logan Bay, who's managing to bust my balls remotely tonight from over in Studio A, yelling through the soundproof glass for people to not put beers where they shouldn't be, and so on and so forth, while he deals with something that is quite obvious to me, more important, which is whatever he's setting up in there. But anyway, thanks to you, Logan, for having us on yet again. And thanks to everyone out there who's tuning in to 105.5 FM on the airwaves here in Chicago, or via the streaming apps on TuneIn Radio, or the Lumpen app, or wherever you can stream radio from. Lumpen Radio is on there. And definitely should check that out. They have some very good shows, other than mine. So don't worry. Don't just base your opinion of Lumpen Radio on this, based on this show, is what I'm trying to say. But if you're listening via podcast, that means, unless this is your first time listening, that you know what you're getting into. So thanks for coming back, and always appreciate you guys listening to the show. If you have a letter or anything, we always appreciate you guys sending them, or a review, something like that. You can do that. Emails to insiders@craftbeertemple.com, and letters, which we have yet another letter from overseas, a handwritten letter. I'm not sure we're going to get to it this week, but I've got a second handwritten. Well, this one was actually printed out, so it was a hand-mailed electronic letter that was sent from the UK. So thanks again for anyone who's been sending letters. And it's funny, now that they're going to the Beer Temple instead of Lumpen Radio, they seem to be not getting lost as often. So it's really interesting how the number of written letters has increased now that it's not up to Edmar to lose them. John Holl sighing with boredom, very audibly in the background. That's okay. It's not his show.
I didn't realize I was on.
He has two podcasts where he can have guests sigh in the background. It's okay. But anyway, for those of you who are listening for the first time, this is the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable, and essentially what I try to do with this show is to have people on whose opinions I respect and admire come on and talk about the things that are part of their daily lives, which is beer in the case of this show. So that's whether they're making beer, or selling beer, or writing about beer, or drinking beer, or financing breweries, or whatever it is. Getting on and having people who are passionate and have made this a part of their lives, getting them together over a beer and talking about stuff. So that's essentially what this show is. And before I introduce my guests, I will mention, as I always do, that the opinions of said guests are solely their own and should not be confused with the opinions of any other entity that they may be affiliated with. To give just one example, that would be Lumpen Radio, not the opinions of Lumpen Radio or any other entity. It's just their own. It's just our own opinions, man. We're just saying what we feel. So, with that, I will introduce my guests. It's going to be very difficult to introduce them because, as you guys know, I always introduce in order of seniority. That being how many times they've been on the show before. Which is the only seniority that matters to me. And I have no idea who's the senior most member. You two, raise, how many times do you think you each have been on the show before? Okay. Have you been on that many times?
I think more.
Okay, more. Speaking of more, Sir William Charles Moore, you are officially the senior member because you say you are.
De facto.
How are you?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Good. Been a while since you've been on, right?
Yeah.
A little bit.
At least a few months, I'd say.
Yeah. What's new with you? How are things at Spiteful?
Very good. It was an interesting day for me, but
yeah,
out in the field all day. I don't typically do that, but interesting to see
You don't typically work?
No, I typically I avoid work at all costs. Obviously, I mean that's why you get into this business is so that it can be easy, and you basically just sit back and rake it in. That's the dream, right?
Good. So sorry you didn't get to do that today, but you were out in the field.
Yeah, it was interesting to get another look at part of the business. So
very cool.
Good stuff.
Going to some of your good Spiteful accounts.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, even from the time that I started with the company, just the difference in people's, I think, reaction to us and our reputation, and it's enlightening to see how all of that is reflected.
Can you give me an example of something that was enlightening to you today that you as of yesterday didn't know or realize?
Well, I mean, I think that in terms of us. It's, I don't know, I guess it's just a lot of really positive feedback pretty much across the board. And I think it's in terms of things like I never go to, for instance, liquor stores and look at what people are buying and selling outside of the city. And that's very, very interesting to me, just seeing
the difference between in-city and out-city.
Oh, yeah. And also just, I think, regionally, it's clear that some things work in some places and other things don't work in others, and that's across the board.
I'm very interested in this. So, what is something that you noticed people buy more of in the burbs, if you have noticed anything?
Well, like in one particular account, I noticed there was an exceptional selection of really Eastern European beer that it was stuff that I would nerd out on, and I was thinking
and stuff like that.
Just tons of stuff that I couldn't possibly like. Yeah. Lots of if I go into somewhere and they have like 30 different Polish beers, that's pretty. I'm going to make a note of that mentally.
Yeah.
And I'm going to want to drink those at some point in my life. Like, oh, I didn't do enough Polish beer research. Yeah. So that's just for example. But it's always, it's as everyone is aware, beer is a deep well, and there's always something to be learned. That you can learn.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on and being the senior member. The next most senior member is Mr. Dan Pische.
Hey, how you doing?
How are you?
Doing good.
I never say where you're from. What should we talk
I'm from
about?
Chicago. I just
You're
live in
from
Miami.
Chicago. Well, what company you're from? Because you do work in the beer space for sure. Right?
I do. I'm a senior lender with First American Bank, so I've been there about 15 years, and I always joke that I'm the outsider on the Insiders Roundtable.
You were, I think, the first to say that.
Yeah.
Not the last. A lot of people come on and say that.
Well, I forcefully got myself on the show just as an excuse to go drink beers when I had a newborn at home. So don't tell my wife.
Yeah.
She's not listening, so it's okay.
Yeah, believe me, I know. Yeah, and I mean, since then you've been featured in Mash Tun magazine, but also on Brewbound and a whole bunch of stuff. So you can't even say you're the outsider anymore. If you've got an article on Brewbound, you're officially very much
I've made
inside.
it.
Yeah,
I've
you've made
it.
Mm-hmm,
Yes.
So, you're up from Miami just to
Yes.
be on the show.
Yeah.
Thank you for flying in.
I needed some miserable cold weather and gray skies. So people down there, when I mention I'm going to Chicago in January, they look at me
Yeah.
a little sideways.
Yeah.
But I do.
They
miss
lower
home.
their mirrored sunglasses.
Just ever so slightly, just in a very judgmental manner too.
Okay, good. Well, thanks for coming on. Anything new with you?
No, just
Beer-wise? Okay.
there's some stuff we'll chat about.
Thanks for bringing this beer that we're drinking.
Thank you. Yeah, you're
Funk
welcome.
Factory Frambois.
Frampars, yeah.
Frampars. Okay.
I saw you just that has made a recent entry into the Chicago market as of today.
As of today.
So good timing.
Yes.
They brought it all the way from Miami.
Yeah.
So that it was available at retail locations.
Perfect.
This afternoon. So
There
it
you
worked
go.
out perfectly.
No, I mean,
But at the end
again,
of the day,
we've all been there. If you've been in this long enough, you've come back from some exotic locale with a beer to just see it sitting on the shelf and be like, oh, okay.
If I wasn't bringing a beer that was either purple or slightly pink in hue, being from Miami, it wouldn't fit.
It's not what I thought you said you're going to bring beer.
Exactly. Well,
This beer's golden in color. What
know,
is this
strange.
stuff? Doesn't taste like Kool-Aid. What is this stuff?
It's Florida Wise.
Yeah, exactly.
Get the name.
The
right.
national alcoholic. Well, that's not true. I'm sure
It's official drink.
many
of South Florida.
cocktails would be far ahead of that as the state.
Other substances probably too. So
Yeah, it's true. Anyway, thank you.
moving on.
My next guest is Mr. John Holl. How are you? So many things. What are you going to be? Where are you going to be from today? Are you going to be from your other podcasts? Or you?
I've been joking. My wife rolls her eyes every time I say this now. It's the gig economy, and I have all the gigs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you do.
No, the most exciting thing is Andy Crouch, noted beer writer, noted beer villain.
Noted. Curmudgeon. Exactly.
I got together with Andy, and we launched a new thing called Beer Edge, which is a newsletter for beer professionals. And I'm hosting a podcast as part of that company that's called Drink Beer, Think Beer, and started that a couple weeks ago. We got about 15 episodes so far. It's just me one-on-one talking with brewers, and available, I think, pretty much where your podcast is available. So
Nice.
yeah,
Okay.
so like all the places.
Good. Hopefully you do a little bit more, because I just find somehow podcasts end up places, but I have no idea. So when you learn how to get your
So busy
podcast
running
on
the bar,
places,
so yeah,
something.
you got like a day job.
Well,
I'm just
Yeah.
kind of sitting around, hoping people talk to me.
Well, I'm honestly very excited about this, because that's some pretty cool news. I was going to say I enjoy reading you even more, which is not true. I enjoy busting your chops the most, but second behind that is reading and listening to and just hearing what you have to say about beer. So
Well, thanks.
very interested in it. So this is just a podcast, or it's just or it's any written form, or
It's it's the the newsletter, which is words, and then the podcast, which is audio. So we're trying to shake things up in the beer media space these days. I mean, it's stuff that's been done by other folks in the past, but not done by us. And the whole nature of how beer news is getting to people has really changed dramatically in the last couple of years. And what's interesting to me is I've been writing about beer for 20 years now, or close to it, and more people kept saying to me, oh, I really like the podcast, whenever I would host a podcast for a magazine or something like that. And I'd say, cool, what do you think about the magazine? And I'd get these blank stares back, because that's where people are getting it from. Or people would say, well, I wish there was something just quick and digestible for me to do. So when Andy and I started talking about doing this, we decided, print is a lot of fun, and my heart is still in print, but there's just not the market for it that there used to be, it seems. So email, newsletter, podcast, and events and all sorts of other stuff. I think we're going to be, trying to go where the people are and hopefully make a living out of this. Hopefully people support us.
I hope so. Best of luck to. I really love what both of you guys write about beer, and I'll say that my my favorite beer writing of all time was, or magazine or whatever you want to call it, periodical, was all about beer when you were at the helm there. So
Thank you.
It was
a
great.
lot of fun.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And that kind of coverage, I think in the world of Instagram these days, and in the world where breweries and beer companies can talk directly to the consumer, right? There's I still think a need for fun, interesting stories of behind the scenes. That's not just marketing, or not just a branded storytelling or that kind of thing. And so Andy has been writing great commentary for years, and certainly great in-depth articles for years. And I've worked with him in the past, and now diving in and telling the stories and sort of helping folks understand the beer world, whether they're in it or not. That's what we've been doing forever, and so I think we're going to keep doing that. But All About was a lot of fun, and boy, I miss it too. So.
Yeah, and it's funny when I'm looking up stuff about beer styles or the history of beer or stuff like that, and you'll be doing Google searches, and I'll pull out, the Oxford Companion, and I'll pull out whatever Michael Jackson books I have. But then I'll go to Google and see what's out there, and I mean, often enough it'll be an old All About Beer article or a Zymergy article, and that's where I get the in-depth information with firsthand quotes from people who were there at the time or actually have the information, and it's it's just a great resource, and I certainly hope that there's still a way for people to make a living creating stuff that I think definitely has a lot of value. So I mean it
thanks.
Very genuinely. Good luck. And now that that's been said, I will likely not say another nice thing about you. So
that's right. Plug, and now
Yeah.
and now for some hazing.
Yes. But before I get to that, I have to introduce my final guest, first-time guest, Mr. Mike Siegel of Goose Island. And Mike, welcome. And the tradition is first-time guests introduce themselves. So can you let everyone know who you are and what you do?
Sure. Mike Siegel, as you said, R&D manager at Goose Island, been there for 8 years, making beer.
Okay, well there you go, short but sweet.
Yeah.
What does the R&D manager at Goose Island do, hypothetically or actually?
Hypothetically, my previous title was director of Tweedledge.
Okay.
And I got a lateral move over to R&D manager.
Okay. Is that true, or are you just joking there? I don't think they would let you have that.
Yeah,
because you get sometimes guys give you their their business card, and it has some snarky title or something like the man with the answers or something like that. So I could see you asking for, and maybe somebody being like, okay, fine, you can be director.
Well, actually, when I started as a brewer at Goose, and then when I got it was called innovation manager at the time, and then after 2 years of carrying around the word innovation in my title, I finally had enough and said, I'm rebranding myself to what we actually do. The buzzword had to go. Mm-hmm. Innovation had to go. Not every new beer is an innovation, as we know. So I just got sick of the title. So I just said,
right. What are you innovating?
We just had some guys in from a big distillery down in Kentucky lately, some R&D guys, and I said, what we end up doing is a lot of development and a little bit of research, and they said that's what we do, little R, big D.
Okay. So give me an example of what type of thing would fall under development at Goose Island?
New beer development. So probably
that's innovation, kind of, right?
Well, it depends how literally you take the language,
okay.
right? In innovation, is really putting putting beer in a bourbon barrel for the first time is an innovation. Mm-hmm. Continuing to do it is not.
Right.
A new. I think there was a lot of innovation for a long time, and innovation comes, and we certainly welcome it. Sometimes it's process innovation. It's not necessarily the recipe is dramatically innovative, but. So again, don't get me wrong. I embrace innovation. It doesn't happen on a daily basis necessarily. It's but but we do create beers pretty much on a daily basis. We 100-something beers a
Yeah,
year.
you were saying before we went on the air, you did like 100 beers or something last year.
Yeah, I mean, for as long as for at least 4 or 5 years, we've probably 100 to 150 beers a year.
And all of them the public sees all of them in some form? Okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the idea is you swing and miss every now and again.
Well, I've said that on the show.
Be willing to fail.
Before. Yeah, is the breweries that I tend to have the most, I don't know, that kind of tug on, or the most like personal connection to, or emotional connection to, I should say, are ones that, may have beers that I personally don't like, but they also have ones that I really, really like because they're not just trying to play it safe. They're taking chances, and sometimes you hit home runs, and sometimes you strike out. But I really respect. I mean, having kind of cut my teeth on craft beer in Delaware, Dogfish Head was one of the first breweries that I had exposure to, and that probably set the tone for what I expected from craft breweries, and they were all over the place. And I loved Dogfish Head, but I didn't necessarily love everything they put out. But I also, in a weird way, loved that about them, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So.
Sure. It's, like for one example of, I mean, we're not afraid to be polarizing. You got to have your home runs, but during the Radler craze of, I don't know.
I know
what year that
was. Going to be talking about,
2015, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But we said, okay, we'll do a Radler, but we're not going to just do grapefruit Radler, right? We're not going to just phone it in. So we did a lot of work, and we came up with a cucumber, lime, and mint Radler. And some people absolutely loved it. Actually, a lot of people mixed it with gin.
Makes sense.
And then we got this letter from this older gentleman who was very sincere, and he just said, "How could you possibly make this? This is the worst beer I have ever had in my life."
That's
so
great.
You know what?
Hated it so much that he wrote you.
Oh yeah, I mean, typed up on an actual typewriter,
right?
Signed with ink.
Was it Augustus Bush who sent that?
Yeah, right.
Triple sticks.
Didn't even worry about Yelp. Didn't go on to Untapped. Worst beer I've ever drank. 3 bottle caps.
I think I just did one of the more expensive beer glass rinses in history with rinsing out that the Funk Factory beer with BCS Double Barrel.
Is that what this is? Is that what I'm drinking right now? Okay, then.
A cool 18%.
Probably. So I was going to ask you something. Oh, I know. I kind of spoiled the surprise, but I brought one of your innovative beers here, which is, what's it called?
Brew Yard.
Brew
Showed
Yard.
me,
Yeah, Brew Yard.
The first beer we did with Ron Pattinson.
Yes, which is like a historic recreation.
Yeah.
A beer that, other than you, me, and Ron, maybe somebody else in the world cares about, but I don't care because I think it's super cool that you guys did that. So, bravo to you. Because that was your baby,
There's at least
right?
a dozen of us.
It's at least.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah. But that's really cool. If you guys are out there, you can look it up. There's some pretty cool videos about. I sound like I'm a little commercial right now, but whatever.
Well,
it is a genuine cool beer. I really dig it. Anyway,
thanks.
Yeah. People are gonna think I'm a big fanboy now, but don't worry. Don't you worry, guys. I'll take out all of that.
Got to keep your street cred
on John Hall. Yeah.
Great, that's why I'm here.
Yeah,
because I can't defend myself. Next time I swear I'm coming to the studio.
Yeah, and then I'll just heap praise on you.
Good.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for coming on, Mike. Much appreciated, and thanks for bringing the double barrel. I have to say, I am very ignorant of the specialty variants this year. What were the barrels that this one went into?
It's Elijah Craig.
Okay.
Yeah.
What makes it double barrel then? Because it's
it went into a barrel for Elijah Craig barrel for a year. Then it came out, went into a fresh Elijah Craig barrel for a year. So
got it.
2 barrels.
Okay. So Dan, given that this beer does not have any pastry byproducts or ingredients in it, what's the razzle value of something like this?
The delegate from Florida abstains.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, well, let's quickly go through and see if there's any beers people have had lately that they have excited them or that they're looking forward to trying. Anything that's kind of on their beer radar right now. Why don't we just go around again? Because, Will, you haven't said anything in a long time. Anything at all that excites you? I have a feeling I know what it's going to be.
No, you don't know what it's going to be. I'm going to change it every time.
Okay.
I'm certainly interested in drinking some, English beer.
I knew you were going to say bitter.
Drink English beer.
I knew it.
It's just that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drink low ABV, yeast-driven, malt-forward beer forever.
Yeah. You guys have a killer bitter out. It's good.
Thanks, man.
I drank some Monday.
Yeah, I'm not.
Tuesday.
I'm not going to constrain myself to only drink ours, though. I would like to. I would like to have all sorts of bitters. That's what I'm envisioning, and of course, that's not going to happen. But I like to fantasize like anyone.
Yep. We have some pretty fresh Tim Taylor in the shop right now.
I'm all about it.
It's a great beer.
Line them up.
How about you, Dan?
Because of the pending winter storm, my trip up here from Miami has been extended until Sunday now. So I will be sampling some of the barrel-aged beers that have come out. Looking forward to having the 2019 prop. Got to get my years right. And some of the Rev Deepwood series that obviously neither of which really make their way to Miami. But this is my first time up since November.
So what was the Lost Abbey beer that you opened up at the bar?
Yeah, I brought that by earlier. That was Peach Afternoon.
Oh, my gosh.
It was
that beer was incredible.
Yeah,
that beer was good.
Following Doug Valicki's lead, I did join the Lost Abbey membership in 2019, and that beer did very well at FOBAB. I think it won for sours and placed runner-up for Best in Show.
Mm-hmm.
So figured it was a good beer to open up at the bar in a random fashion.
We had another highly regarded peach beer open. I don't want to give too much away based on what I'm about to say. At that day, and people thought it was good, very good, and then you open that, and it completely reset everybody's expectations, because then you go back to the other beer, and you're like, oh, yeah, that
was there.
That's not that good.
No, so I brought it up because I remember hearing about it on the podcast, and that was, everybody got one bottle for the membership, so I figured that would be a good beer to bring. And
that's the only one you got. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
thank you.
Coming off the heels of FOBAB and being a beer that didn't really see any distribution, but I figured that what better spot to open it.
And what's the beer again? What's it called?
I think it's Peach Afternoon.
Peach Afternoon.
I could be completely wrong on that, but
to paraphrase Ferris Bueller, if you have the means, I highly recommend you picking one up.
That was quite good.
They are very, very good. Okay, well, cool.
Yeah.
For me, I'll jump out. I'm excited to try the 40th anniversary beer from Sierra Nevada, which we only have in 12 packs. So I brought a whole 12 pack, and whatever isn't drank, I'm taking home with me.
That will not last the podcast.
West Coast IPA.
All over it.
Yeah, man. So I'm very excited to try that one. So that's what has gotten me excited personally. Who wants to go next, John or Mike? Anyone?
Go ahead, John.
When it gets down to the scrubs,
sure.
You guys can go in any order you want.
Yeah, it's that Sierra 40th is a lot of fun, and I've been enjoying that. I've been drinking some of the Notch Zwickel pills out of Massachusetts. I was at the Big Beers, Belgians, and Barley Wines Festival over the weekend, and drinking a lot of really fun stuff there. But back here at home, I have to say, you guys were talking about the barrel-aged beers, and it's making me realize that I need to find a couple of the cans that I have of the Bud Light and Clamato that have been aged in pop-off vodka barrels. Because that really is just one that stands out in my mind.
Sounds like a natural combo.
Yeah, five bottle caps all the way.
Nice. How much of that do you get with your paycheck, Mike?
It comes in by the pallet.
Okay, good. Mm-hmm. All right. So is there any actual beer? Oh, no, you talked about the Keller Pills. Whatever. Okay, from Notch.
And
Got
the
it.
Sierra-
Got it.
Yeah, no, it's
And the
real.
Sierra 40. No, you're right. You're right. I'm correcting myself.
Usually I put the joke beer at the front. I put it at the back this time.
And
I
you
just wanted
and
to
you
throw
totally threw me off. So
Spoiler, one of those beers isn't real.
yes. Yeah, Notch doesn't make it pills. So how about Mike? Anything you've had that's exciting or that you've liked or that you are excited to try?
Well, I'll get on this Sierra. I'm very excited. Pretty much everything Sierra is awesome. Actually, I came in. I was going to gripe at you. I haven't seen you in a while, but I came in to, around Halloween to get some celebration, and you were all out.
Man,
It went fast.
we went through so much celebration this year. That was one of the surprises of 2019 for us was
Nostalgia.
but out of nowhere, we sold maybe 2 or 3 cases, maybe 4 last year, and we sold I think 25 or 30 cases this year,
Wow.
which for our little store is a lot. And it there wasn't like a marketing campaign. It was just all of a sudden people wanted it, and we had it on draft just like we did last year, and people were just ripping through it. My hope, I have no idea what it actually is, but my hope is that it's nostalgia for a profile that is ever harder to come across in good shape, in good kind of condition, and the fact that it's a seasonal. This is what one of the younger guys at the shop said was, well, this profile is made by breweries that when I see their product, I can't necessarily trust the condition it's going to be in, sadly, although I like the beer. But this one I can, so I'm grabbing it as soon as I see it. So hopefully that's indicative of where things will go, which is a wider variety of styles that are fresh and available to everyone. So
I mean, speaking of Sierra too, it's just talking about lost craft of bottle conditioning. You know, it's
Totally.
how many breweries are bottle conditioning in the U.S. these days? It's not many.
not many. but-
Deschutes and New Glarus and a few others.
Yeah. I mean, maybe some of the kind of farmhouse breweries, but I'm talking. But you mean just
Yeah, like a pale ale or
Yeah.
Something like that. But anyway, I was just in your shop last week. I this time of year it's something malty and dark. I picked up it was good to see Bell's as a smoked porter.
yeah.
Thank goodness somebody still is making a smoked porter.
Them in Anchorage.
And then of course Obsidian.
Alaska.
The Obsidian
Alaska.
stuff.
Oh, sorry,
It's definitely
Alaska.
Alaskan.
Sorry, but they're out of Anchorage probably. Maybe.
Juneau.
Whatever. Close enough.
Nobody.
Sorry.
They're
No,
probably,
Alaskan-
they're probably like
Alaskan
I love the
1,000 miles
research you
apart.
put into
No,
this
it's
program
Alaskan.
each and
It's
every week,
Alaskan
Chris.
smoked porter. No. Well done. Thank you for correcting me. It's definitely not Anchorage. They're very different breweries. But anyway, Mike, John interrupted you. I'm sorry about that.
No, so am I. But yeah, malty, dark, reasonably sessionable. I got a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, so my world's pretty small.
Yeah, I'm with you,
you're
man.
not too far removed. So it's like I go from the brewery to home, and if I'm lucky, I stop off at your place and get a 6-pack. So my
Right.
world's been pretty small for a while. That's why it's good to be out,
Very good.
try some new things.
I've been getting down.
Up. Serge, cut your mic.
No, I was saying I was, New Year resolution, getting to the gym, lighter beers. So really happy to be having an 18% stout right now.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just exactly
Dry-ish.
dryish. Yeah, it's semi-dry.
I can imagine
Semi-dry
just-
January, right? It's
hitting the treadmill hard and then
yeah.
cracking a haterade afterwards. Get those electrolytes back.
yeah. I'm, I got two young boys, so I'm in the same boat. Where my day is
So you're going
extremely
raging after
wrenching.
this.
Every
Yes,
day in
it's-
Chicago is a cheat day. This is not, like the same rules do not
Yes.
apply out here.
Yeah. This is damp January. I mean, let's be real. I mean, come on. We want maybe you want it to be dry, but come on. I mean, there's a little moisture in there somewhere, so it's all good. Well, Serge is he's giving me that look, meaning that I have to. What is this? Underwriting. That's what you have to do. Underwriting. Let you know the places, the businesses and the shows that make Lumpen Radio possible. So we're going to listen to that and then come back with more of the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I am your host, Chris Quinn, and I'm joined by Dan Pische, Mike Siegel, and John Holl. And what?
Allegedly. William Charles Moore.
And William Charles Moore went to he went to the bathroom. So we'll see when he's back. So there's a few things, and I totally forgot about one of the things I wanted to talk about. But
always a good trait in a host.
Yeah, it's true. Well, I forgot to put it on the outline, but what I did was I took some cans of tuna from Half Acre, and we got some in early November that had been canned in early October, and we set some in our cooler and then some right outside our cooler, our downstairs cooler, our keg cooler. And then a month later, we ordered more, and then we did the same thing. And then a month after that, we ordered more fresh, and then we tasted them all blind and did a video of it of me tasting them blind. And the 2-week-old tuna and I think it was 70-day-old cold stored they weren't imperceptibly different. They were different. You couldn't really tell which was the fresh one, though. I mean, I preferred the fresh one. I felt it had a more rounded kind of feel to it. It was amazing. And then the 2-month, or it was actually 100-plus day, it was like just over 100-day-old cold stored, tasted way better than the fresher warm stored. I mean, without a doubt. We're going to do it in the shop as well, just by way of education of, I was certainly in Chicago. I get credited / accused of both, I think, unfairly for, driving this big freshness thing here in Chicago. We definitely, at the Beer Temple, said it was, check dates. It's really important. We sent back a lot of beer that we didn't think was okay. But I think it's almost gone a little too far where people think that freshness is the only thing that matters. So we're trying to take the next step and show people that how you care for the beer matters also a lot and can actually that freshness alone isn't enough if you're really, really getting into it. So it was very interesting, and that's just my own little monologue that I probably should have gone and done on my own. But anyway, moving on to a topic that we did put on here. I wanted to know. We'll start with something light. I'm gonna go with something light. That being big double digit ABV beers. Dan.
Perfect.
So, there was enemy of the show, Doug Valicki, had a poll on Twitter that said, what is the ideal package size for barrel-aged beers? And what would you say is the ideal? Let's take everyone. We'll just shout them out if you think there is one. What do you guys think is the ideal? This is all personal. We already said you're speaking for yourselves. You're not speaking on behalf of Spiteful Will. What do you think is the proper package size for you for a strong beer? Dan, Will,
depends
John,
on the
Mike.
It depends on the ABV, but I would say 6.5 ounces for sure.
10+%, let's say, or 9+%. How much?
12.
12 ounces.
Yeah, 12 ounces.
What do you say, Will?
I said 6.5 ounces.
A 6.5 ounce.
Listen, I'm gonna be a dissenting voice here. So.
I'm okay with that. Okay. What do you
Can
say,
you bump
Dan?
it up to 7 and we can do pony bottles? That's what Rogue used to do, right? For their big barrel aged stuff.
I love those.
Rog?
Yeah,
Who's that?
Nips.
old crustacean and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, 7-ounce bottles.
Since I have 2 little kids at home, I'd go 750 milliliters.
750. Oh, come on.
No, I think 12 ounces.
12.
Yeah, I think it's almost like there's like individual serving sizes. It's a matter of how you portion it out. So like a 16-ounce, a 500 milliliter bottle would be for 2. A 750 would be for 3. So because I don't have friends,
We know.
I'm
You
usually
don't have
drinking
to-
alone.
That
so it's
qualifier
like,
is not needed.
no,
We
well,
know.
obviously I'm here with you. So
Yeah.
I think like 12 is a round serving size that like I think like 16 would be my top for like what I would have.
16 ounces of a barrel-aged beer, of a strong beer, rather?
Yeah, I mean, if you said like if I was having 1 beer in a night, like that would be kind of the max.
Yeah.
That's where I tap the mat at. Like,
Okay.
Yeah, but like ideally speaking, yeah, I think it's kind of like in that 6 to 8 range would be like a good serving size. But
Yeah, did you say serving size or package size?
well, we're doing
we
both.
did
We're
both.
juggling both.
So then I said, well, so package size was the original poll, but then
yeah, but we turned it into serving size.
yeah.
So yeah,
Exactly.
I think I think they're best in smaller servings, but in terms of how you package it, I think you're packaging it for like effectively 2 or 3 people, depending on if you're the most common sizing being 16 ounce right now, or you see some of the 750s still. You don't really see any 12s aren't there's a handful. Rev is obviously doing it with theirs, but I like 12.
That's our
I think if I had to
package
pick
size.
one, it'd be 12.
Okay. How about you, Mike?
I think that makes sense. Of the common sizes, 12.
Think outside. Be innovative, man.
I
That's
don't
your
want to.
job,
I don't want
or
to get
used
into the
to be.
change parts, for the bottle line.
Oh, you're
on.
such a.
I think Magnums are the future. Let's
yeah,
be
That's
honest.
exactly what Doug said. He's like, it takes so much to get the engineers
Practically
in there.
speaking, the reason I get asked all the time, the reason why Bourbon County moved to a 500 milliliter because it's the smallest. You probably know this, but it's the smallest volume you can sell as a producer as a single serve bottle in the state of Illinois. So I always brought up, like before I heard the producer part, I always brought up Orval. I'm like, why can you buy a single bottle of 11.2
Right.
ounce Orval
Exactly.
everywhere in Chicago?
Yeah.
Or
Because it's not
JWs.
made here. That's the answer I got. I said that doesn't make any sense.
I don't think
So
that's
we
true.
could not
That's
sell
not
a
true.
12 ounce. Well, according to somebody who did the research,
So the law, as I know it, it's a Cook County law, I believe. It might be an Illinois law, but I think it's a Chicago law, and it's per purchase, not per item. So you're not allowed to sell somebody less than 500 mil of beer at a time, but you are allowed to
go Chicago minimums.
right.
Yeah,
So
got to sell them at least 500 mil.
exactly.
Get that Colt 45 in their hand.
It makes no sense. So, but that's why Orval is allowed, because it's up to the retailer to say, "Hey, man, I'm looking out for your consumption habits, and you buying only one 11.2 ounce bottle of Orval is probably not the best. You should probably buy that, and a quart of beer, to keep things kosher." But
Whatever the realities of the legalities
Yeah.
are, I couldn't tell you, but that's what I've been told. So,
yeah,
but that's the story of why Bourbon County moved to 500 milliliter. They wanted to do single serve bottle.
We'll
So it
call
used to
out
be,
to
of course, it used
Ashley.
to be 4-pack 12 ounce.
Yeah.
And bombers. Now bombers, that's a ridiculous size these days. Of course, it was normal back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Designated a special beer.
when do you think is Bourbon County going back to 12 ounce? Do you think, or multi packs? Silence.
Not my job.
Not your job. Okay. All right. I hope
The
it
beer
does.
is my job.
I hope it does. When they went from 4-packs, and they changed it, I was hoping they would go to like 8-ounce bottles, because that's what I voted for on the Beer Cruncher poll. I said 8-ounce bottles or 8-ounce cans. That's ideal. And then Doug
Change
and
parts.
I got into it.
Change parts.
Yeah, change parts. And, yeah, whatever.
It would be cute to see a little 7-ounce Bourbon County, wouldn't it?
It would be amazing. And that's the size That's the size. So then I was, Doug was insistent that 12 ounce was what people actually wanted, and what I couldn't get over was I said, all right, I'm going to put a poll out that's going to disprove yours, which he completely refuted, and probably correctly because he's more intelligent than I am. But I said, all right, well, that was your package size, not your package size, Will. Who's highlighting? Someone's on my outline. Oh, it's you, John. So Google Docs, real time, I can see somebody messing with my... Yeah. So then I said, what's the ideal draft pour size? And it was funny because it was wildly different. So what I should say is, so he had, Doug had over 500 people reply, and 46% said 12-ounce bottle can. 35 said 8-ounce bottle can. 18,
that's a clear. I think that's a more interesting distinction is bottle and can.
Yeah.
Can liners are only warranted for a year. So if this is something that people are planning on cellaring, think about it. Mm-hmm. So I'd say, long age beers and cans,
Why? What's wrong? What would go wrong with the warranty? Like what would go out of warranty?
The manufacturer, the line, cans are lined,
right? And it would just get worn away, and then what happens when what happens to the lining?
I don't know. I'm saying just think about it.
Okay.
Glass is proven.
Right. I gotcha.
That sounds like fake news to me. I'm just saying.
Right. I mean, it just sounds like someone cover your, CYA is what it sounds like to me. But who knows? I mean, maybe the lining in the can.
I just don't. I've never heard that topic talked about.
Might get metallic flavors, perhaps. What topic?
Aging beers and cans.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure people have done it. I can't say I've ever had a super old can of beer that I've gotten a metallic taste out of, where I'm like, oh my gosh, this tastes like metal or something like that, where it's obvious that a can lining degraded or something like that. I mean, I can't imagine that the seal the lining has anything to do with the seal, so I don't think there's any oxygen getting in or something like that.
No, and the cans are way better from an oxidation perspective. The only disadvantage is that they're more sensitive.
Oxygen ingress.
Sure. They're more susceptible to temperature variation, which potentially is a weakness, but in my estimation, pretty much fully superior in every other way. So,
not every other way.
Well, I think that from a presentation perspective, nothing beats a bottle.
Yeah.
You can't wax a can.
Well, that's not what some people
have.
It has been done. It has been done.
I know it doesn't look good though.
Just really messy getting in there.
Well, I'm not a big fan of waxing bottles either, because then it's like you gotta have another tool to get another tool.
More injuries from de-waxing bottles.
No doubt.
No doubt. Just about any other beer-related injury,
Probably.
I think.
Yeah.
So what I wanted. So I said 8 ounce is what I voted for. I was like, that's the right size. That's what it should be. And that the only reason people are saying 12 ounces is because they don't have experience with 8-ounce bottles and they don't really think of it. They know that I've bought a 12-ounce bottle and I like it more. And essentially, that's the smallest size I've ever bought. I want a smaller size. That was my thinking. And again, Doug incorrectly, although probably correctly, disagrees with me. So I said, all right, I'm going to see what's your preferred serving size for strong beers. And in that poll, 58% of people said 8 ounces, 25% said 6 ounces, 12% said 12 ounce, and 3.5% said 16 ounces. And there's a 0.5% left out there because, there was 0.2s and 0.3s and stuff like that. So what that tells me is that people want smaller serving sizes. So I think, why would somebody prefer a package size that is more than a single serving, but not have it be like a 750 big kind of, or a Magnum or something that's for like an occasion? That's what I don't.
I think it's a special beer comment earlier. So
when I started at Goose and I got a few bottles of Bourbon County, it was 12 ounce obviously, and I would open it up and my wife and I would split it. It was our treat,
Yeah.
Sometimes I get 7, she get 5, but
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's even a 12-ounce bottle's it depends on the beer. It depends on the beer.
I think it depends on what you're, there was a period, I think in the last 2 years, where there obviously moved to 500 milliliter. A lot of breweries, some down in my neck of the woods, down in Florida, were doing it, where it was a way to increase the number of units available by moving the serving size from 750 or 650 down to 500. You increase the number of units, you get more out. What it did, I think obviously it accomplished what it was setting out to do, which was putting more units, if you will, into people's hands. But, when these are pretty unique, one-off, one per person type bottles, that having less volume actually came back around to be kind of an issue. Where
so what do you mean by
that?
If
it was a special
less volume for package, you mean?
Yeah, per package. So in terms of like if you were using it as a, for people who would do beer shares or would do, would be more inclined to wait in line for, say, a bottle of Assassin, which is 650 milliliters, when that gets reduced, if that's a special beer like that you're going to save and move for like a special occasion, like you have less volume of it. So I think there's something that goes along with it. Like if you're going to put the time in to go find this special or unique piece, this beer, regardless of what the release is, when it is a smaller size and you still only get one, it'd be one thing if you went from 750 say to 500, but you got two. So like your volume is actually up. But when you're going from 750 to 500 and you get one, as far as being able to share that or trying to use it in that special category, again, this is more for the very low run beers. I think it actually comes back around to work against what those beers are trying to do in terms of a marketing perspective.
Which
for
is
those
get
beers.
a
hype. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Razzle.
Absolutely.
To razzle for more.
We can't do that anymore on Facebook, or anywhere.
I read your comments at the year-end show.
Yep. I realized I had a typo in there, but you also forgot to mention I was doing it for my cell phone. It was a text message.
I didn't notice that.
He read the typo online. I'm like,
hey, man.
I sound worse than I normally do now. No, I'm not.
Your mistakes.
I know.
So, yeah, I mean, I think if you're saying it's about getting units out there, then I think honestly, and what Doug was saying very much aligns with what Mike is saying, is that it's the boring but probably true answer is it takes, highly paid engineers a long time to break these machines down, to put different parts on, to make them, for a smaller size. But you can get more volume, you get more units out there, Dan, if you go smaller. If you go to an 8-ounce, and you could do a super cool small like can, not the little stubbies, those are kind of ugly, but if you went with like a Red Bull, something like a little more thin or a little bottle, I mean those could be like super specialized and very highly regarded.
I think if you were to look at the question again and re-poll people, and it wasn't just what is the package size, but what is the package size relative to its net package, which would be you're getting your 12-ounce can or bottle in a 4-pack versus like what you're getting. So if you're getting a single 12-ounce bottle or a single 500 milliliter bottle or a single 750, I think that actually has that would change the results, I believe.
Well,
of
what
the
if it
overall
was
question.
The same price per ounce, no limit?
Then I think that would definitely skew towards your smaller size.
So like in an ideal world, people want one serving per package.
Yeah,
right.
But that's assuming that you can get unlimited. But if you get one package,
but we're not talking about these like hype boys that these circles you travel in.
But I think the question
the seedy underbelly of beer that you
all economies, all seedy economies. Yes.
You know what I imagine you, Dan, is in the graphic for The Godfather, that little hand that's holding the marionette string.
Yeah.
I see you doing that, but for aftermarket razzles and illegal beer sales. I see you just manipulating the beer economy secretly making tens of dollars off of it.
I use my
tens
Econ 101.
What's a razzle?
Class.
Yeah, exactly.
I use my Econ 101.
I learned about it from this man right here. When I tell you about it, you'll be horrified.
Okay.
It's a relic of the past at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Ragnarok.
Like people lining up for barrel-aged beer?
Yeah, right. That's a relic of the. That's
The distant.
Is this
not too distant
is
past.
this things that will be spirit or things that may be?
No,
I think that's.
I actually think that's
the ghost of things that.
That segues into the next, the point about what was 19 relative to 20 in terms of, the year that has been and the year to come. And you're right. I mean, the zeitgeist, if you will, about what people are willing to do. And when you talk about 236 breweries in the market, your options are so varied now that, the effort that's going to be put in is going to be reduced.
36?
According to Cranes.
That's Chicago and burbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And into parts of Indiana, I think it pulled into that.
Chicagoland, which includes. I think it technically includes like
Parts of
maybe
Wisconsin.
Milwaukee
Kenosha,
and
whatever. Yeah, exactly. Milwaukee,
the
Minnesota,
Madison.
South Canada.
Yeah. You're listening to WLPNLP, Chicago 105.5 FM, Lumpin' Radio. This is the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. Happy? Now you happy, Serge? And we're talking about beer. John is very interested. I think he's going to bail because he says he doesn't feel good. But we should
In a few minutes.
we should probably get into this Cranes article, which had people up in arms. Normally I do this after the break, but John will be gone, and he hasn't said anything of value yet, so I have to give him an opportunity before he leaves. So
Thanks, pal.
you're welcome. I'm just whatever. Anyway, so there was an article in Cranes Chicago about beer, and what did it said? Craft beer loses its cool, and it's it's funny. Essentially the article said things like Chicago area beer fell, craft beer, 10% last year, down, sale, down from a peak sale, peak growth of 24% in 2015, based on IRI data. It talks about, has some quotes about how things are getting tough. It talks about Ballast Point being bought after being acquired for $1 billion not too long ago. A whole bunch of stuff that we've talked about on this show really ad nauseum. But it's interesting that it's in a more of a mainstream business publication. The title was "Craft Beer Loses Its Cool," and then kind of like the subheadings for the sections were breaking through the clutter, overcrowding. Craft surge fizzles, a pie chart that is highly suspect.
Right.
Anyway, what really got people talking was, and the author Dalton Barker. I don't not really familiar with his writing. He's no Andy Crouch. I'll just say that.
But who is?
Yeah, right. What did you think about this article, John?
I think this is sort of a snapshot of what we're seeing, nationally right now, is that it's getting harder and harder to run a brewery, regardless of your size. And, they sort of distilled it down into Chicago and made it seem like it's, dire times. But I mean, it's always been tough, and it's the fact that, people are saying, oh, it's losing its cool. I mean, that's a headline designed to spur on exactly these types of conversations, but the numbers themselves, I mean, you see them nationally. This is just the way that things have been headed for the last couple of years. It's, there's more breweries opening up, but there's not necessarily more craft consumers. And that's the thing that, surprises me, more and more, is that, for all of the breweries out there, it's just that piece of the pie hasn't grown. And so, I think it's tough, and it's,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't get out to Chicago as much as I would like, but I mean, from afar, it seems like competition has never been more stiff. Not only between the breweries, but also the tap rooms and also the local bars now, and everybody's sort of fighting for the same pot of consumer dollars. And I don't envy anybody who's in that part of the game. Although if you're feeling bad about it, come over to journalism and see how we're doing.
Exactly. Yeah, you're not crying for anybody. Yeah, it's funny. What I heard from most people was how the data was being not even manipulated, but just misunderstood, and that it was really, people who there's are a lot of beer articles from places that are more mainstream like Cranes, but also beer centric sources that are using this IRI data, which we've talked about on the show and in the past is really it's it's not just grocery, but it's chains, it's large stores. Here in Chicago, for example, it doesn't even include Binny's, but it's it's supermarkets, it's Target, it's Walgreens, it's the 7-Elevens, it's the big places. So it certainly gives you a very accurate picture of some things,
right,
but it doesn't give you a picture of everything. And what IRI data does, it's called, I think, scan data, and it's very valuable because it's not just what was bought. So like a brewery could say, we've sold this much, but it's just, it all was sold to their distributors, and it's just sitting in a warehouse somewhere. It hasn't actually been drank. Or, this is theoretical, or it could be that it's just sitting on shelves everywhere. But IRI is actually scan data, meaning, when it goes across the little scanner at checkout, that's kind of where it's captured. So has this stuff been bought? Which is valuable information. It's not strictly pipe fill, as Don Bixel, I first heard used the term. So it's valuable, but it also, you have to kind of dig a little deeper to kind of get the true, to get to it. And this is the first time we've ever kind of pushed back on some of these articles. We're always, I love a good doom and gloom article here about craft beer. That's kind of what this show has become this past year. But I don't know. It is interesting with, you tell me,
Yeah.
Dan, you and I were talking about it on the
Sure.
way down, and it's about how growth has slowed, right?
That was my read on it, and obviously I'm not, looking through all of the information, but the way this article reverberated, like even within my, my institution, and then also others, like I was having people calling me or emailing me, concerned. Like, is there something we don't know about that we need to be aware of? And I felt that the headline of the article was obviously written to have these sort of conversations. Exactly right.
Just like John said, yeah.
Yeah.
But, the real world implication, this is the next, as I mentioned, the next article I'm writing for Mashton now is kind of on this topic, looking at it like the market is maturing. The news, I don't believe the news is going to be the friend of any young brewer now, or brewery now, because you're going to see more of this. The news will cover naturally a closure of a brewery at a much larger scale than the expansion of a brewery or the launch of a new brewery. So you're going to have more stories, more negative stories, if you will, taking up more of the print space, if you will, in terms of business publications. And I think the perception, to people who maybe don't follow it as closely or don't listen to beer-related podcasts or read, beer-related newsletters.
Which is everybody.
Which is most everybody. And also, most people, obviously I'm in the lending business, are the people making decisions on what loans are getting approved and not. Like,
and that's the scary thing is you talked to me about somebody in your field who was talking about this article, being like, is this something we should be
Yeah.
worried about? Talking to you, who
Sure.
is intimately familiar with the industry, and you telling them, I don't want to speak for you, but essentially, not everything is as it seems. You got to dig a little deeper.
Yeah,
but
you got-
how many people in your field read cranes? Probably everyone.
Most everybody,
and how many have a U? Nobody.
So the majority, if you look at a lender, most lenders have a committee that makes decisions for deals of certain size. So like, even if you have somebody who's very familiar with a segment, they're going to be one voice. Like, I'm a member of one of our 2 committees, right? So you're going to have one person there, and then you're going to have a lot of people reading headlines. And this is going to be true for all breweries. I mean, it's true for all businesses, really. But
Right.
regardless of your industry, like, you're going to be a slave to the segment, the news about your segment. So this is going to be an increasing problem for breweries who are seeking capital from especially lenders, but also investors, because they're going to have second thoughts. Whereas I would say 3 years ago, we lend in growth mode. So someone is they're established, they've kind of proved their concept, they have cash flow, they're seeking capital to grow. That's kind of where we enter. That's always been my theory. We've talked about it from when I first started coming on the show. But I would see lenders who might be more apt to venture into the startup space, who, because the segment was doing so well, were doing mental gymnastics over like, oh, this person worked at that brewery and that brewery is really well known, so they're going to do great. Like, just seriously coming up with ways of like approving the loan that were based on like, well, their pedigree, like they're a thoroughbred. So I don't think you're going to have that natural lift that, because the craft beer industry has been doing well, been growing, and these monstrous growth numbers, that you're going to have headwinds now. And even when we were talking about in the show notes, how would you surmise 2019? Like, I don't think it's calm before the storm, because storm implies like this kind of big event, but I think it's calm before the culling, and I think you're going to see the culling of the week. And it's not that there's anything wrong with the company or wrong with the people running it or wrong with the people working there, but it's wrong with their capital structure or their debt load or their ability to adapt to the changing economy, or the fact they don't have a tap room, or it's these culmination of multiple events coming together. It's not any one specific thing that's going to break the back, but it's going to be this kind of, there's 236 breweries. What makes you 237? Like, how are you going to compete? How are you going to compete with now there's 2 people across the street? The dollars of the consumer are being spread wider because there's so many breweries. So like, people are only going to be visiting, say, half as frequently because there's just more places to go spend your money. And it's not any one of these factors. It's a combination of them, and it's going to differ from brewery to brewery. And why I always am very leery of just statistics in general that talk about industry is I see it from the lending side, and I do see it. We do a lot of small business lending. I do work with the SBA, and you'll see these numbers that come out that say like, this industry or this segment of the population, their loans are approved this percentage at a time, and it's a nonsense statistic in my opinion, because show me the 2 companies that look exactly alike. Mm-hmm. So you can, because if you're actually going to compare, you have to have like groupings, and you can't just have like groupings based on demographics. You have to have it in terms of what they're looking for the money on, how much they're looking for, what's their plan. And that information isn't there. They're going largely by age, gender,
but how many
and other
people
factors
think,
that have nothing to do with the underlying plan.
Well, my fear is that not enough people are going to be thinking, and not even in lending, but in every area, including consumers. And that is honestly the first thing I thought about when I read the article was like, oh boy, all right, well, I mean, whatever the reality is, this is now what everyone believes the reality to be, whether it is, the truth or not. Thanks to the Lion Media, John Holl, I'm looking at you, and no.
Well,
ouch, man! Come on, I mean, that's harsh even for you.
No,
I've posited the question about.
I just had to use it because it's the parlance of our time. Come on.
What happens to craft beer in the next recession? I wrote an article on it. I think it's an interesting thought experiment to go through. My background is in special assets. I did restructuring and bankruptcies during a recession. Like, that by and large, if you look at the growth of the craft beer industry, we've been in a recovery for a very long period of time. That obviously another recession will come. There's headwinds in 2020. We have an election year. We have a lot of other factors. at what point does it become self-fulfilling? It's just been
That's
something we've
kind of
talked
what
about
yes, exactly.
with the economy more broadly, but like at what point does it become self-fulfilling with articles? And I think it's another contributing factor to, oh, well, it's lost its
Or
cool.
perception, general
Exactly.
perception.
Perception is reality for
Right.
most consumers. So
Right. So it's oh, that's not cool anymore.
Right.
I don't want to be not cool. Oh, so I mean, what's the
Since when does Cranes get to decide what's cool? First off, I do think that this is the right message to get out to the business community. If you are trying to get into beer because you think you're going to make money, you are in the wrong. You are not doing the right thing.
guys? We've lost our cool.
Well, listen. I mean, I don't know if you noticed this, but there are no more young people in beer. It's over.
It's fizzled.
That's it.
The surge is fizzled.
That fizzle is the hard seltzer fizzling.
That's right.
Yeah.
There they
in the
all
background.
Yeah. It's. I do actually worry that people will. Yeah, whatever. What are you gonna do? I mean, that's the thing. I guess you kind of ride it or you don't. So it's when people are saying, "Hey, everything's great." And remember when people were saying that breweries had a 0% fail rate, and it was like like AAA.
Right.
What you're investing in tech, you idiot. Invest in this startup brewery. I mean, that's what's gonna. And it was such a joke even then. I don't know. It's funny that it's kind of gone to the mainstream.
It is.
It worries me a little bit.
And
How do you feel like working for a big guy, Mike? I mean, does it worry you at all? I mean, you don't work for a craft brewery. We all know that.
Yeah.
No.
I'm getting a
According
paycheck
to
every week.
IRI, according to IRI, you are though, right? Honestly, right?
What?
Are you guys craft? Would you know that, John? Is like Goose and stuff? Are they craft by IRI
I know that
standards?
some of the individual brands like Blue Moon used to be. I haven't gotten into the IRI data in a while, but like Shock Top and Blue Moon would all fall into the craft category for a
Goose
while.
has
But
to be,
yeah.
I would think so.
but not
Again,
whatever.
Not my, not my area. But no, I keep showing up and making beer, and I get a paycheck. So I mean, Goose. Has
You
been
just try to
around.
like stay out of that whole.
Yes.
You not try to not look for the forest and just focus on the tree so much, or do you just like, this is my job, I'm going to do what I can do?
Well, it's not like I'm not concerned, but
Well, I'm just asking you as like not even like as the R&D guy at Goose. I'm just asking you as like a dude who cares deeply about beer.
yeah. And I honestly wish I had a better finger on the pulse of things. I
Yeah.
literally go from home to work every day. Like if you'd asked me like over 3 years ago, like 3 to 8 years ago, I could have given you a much more,
Right.
response, a better response going out to bars. And all I can say is there's, I've got a lot of friends in the industry and a lot of great people. And, whatever's going to come, it's a matter of, I want to keep all those relationships intact. And, again, for me, show up, make beer. That's one thing I don't have to worry about working ultimately for a very big company is a paycheck every week. But yeah, I don't have a crystal ball for sure.
Yeah.
The one thing that troubles me more than anything is, again, I put up a bit of a brick wall with hazy IPAs, and then the hard seltzer wall is like, you can't even see the top of it.
You can't. Yeah.
That's what scares me more than anything is not the business side of things, but that, the beer world's the increasing homogeneity and decreased, was 7 years ago the broadest range of beer styles that ever existed in U.S. craft beer, and now it's just getting narrower and narrower. As far as what sells, yeah, thank God, smoked porters still are out there, right? And we make a wide variety, but that's what worries me
With
more than
you.
anything is that the variety,
I could not agree more. People tell me, frequent guests come on here and tell me that I'm wrong. And you guys who listen to the show week after week know that this is what I say. I see variety shrinking. And I'm kind of, to me, I don't get it. I mean, John, why do you think, or maybe you disagree with the premise totally, but as we're, craft beer is increasing, and even, despite this Crane's article, the craft beer segment by, I think, any standard is growing or not shrinking. Why does it seem that the styles availability is decreasing? Why are people focusing more and more on specific styles, despite the fact that craft beer is selling more and more, or more than it has been certainly 2 years ago?
Honestly, I think it comes down to social media. I think it's Instagram. I think the fact that a lot of the brewers that have cool looking design labels or, hazy whatever, that, Garrett Oliver once said that the hazy IPA was made for Instagram. And, so it's sort of, that's what we see the most of out on social media. People want to show off, they're new, they're rare, they're local, and that usually falls into the hazy IPA or the barrel aged or the whatever. And so those English milds and those pilsners and those, those other things that we all, enjoy drinking, they don't get the clicks, they don't get the looks. I think a lot of it is, it's the Wizard of Oz. It's the pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, because it's, kind of fake.
What's fake?
Like just the that there are so few styles. There are a lot out there, but they're just not getting the attention.
Okay.
But even breweries that are made a name for themselves doing like Belgian styles and things like that, I could name quite a few, now find themselves, pivoting towards making hazy IPAs, right? Like
Omegang.
Well,
are they really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jester King too. I mean, to me, if that's not a canary in a coal mine, Jester King using London 3 hazy ale yeast in a double dry hopped IPA.
That's what's for me the scarier than anything is the because as a business owner, and again, I'm not a business owner, right? But putting yourself in their shoes as a business owner, something's really selling, and so it's almost like a license to print money, with either it's hazy IPA or hard seltzer, and so it's a tough philosophical discussion you've got to have with yourself and your team to say, are we just going to hold ground and make saisons and 18-month aged beers?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think what happened is those conversations have been had, and people said, yeah, we are going to do it. And then a year later, the owner has come back and said, yeah, we can't do that anymore. If you all want to keep getting your paycheck, we're going to have to do something different. So we're going to get some London, 3. This is obviously I have no more insight than, and probably less than you do into this, Mike, but that's my let's say my fear. My fear is that's why you're seeing it, but when you see it happen again and again and again, and there are little to no, I think as I was saying, the canary in the coal mine, but maybe these wild ale breweries are stylistically those canaries, because they don't really exist anymore. There are no wild only breweries, just because that area has kind of dried up. I mean, when I say no, I'm sure there are some, but some of the most prolific and well regarded ones in the States are no longer strictly making those wild styles.
Yeah, and obviously I think most of us respect Jeff Allworth and his writing, and he wrote about the Portland brewery closures recently, right?
Yeah.
And like how that's a much more mature brewery market than Chicago. They're decades plus into it, and now they're seeing lots of closures, and he uses that as kind of a microcosm of like what's going to happen, what he thinks is going to happen in the U.S.
I said here before,
right?
That's the future, man. You're looking
one of the best breweries in Portland, the Commons,
there.
closed, right? And they were farmhouse focused, and it was sad to see. And so, anyway, going back to what you asked earlier, all I say is I want all these breweries to stay open. I don't know how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And if it means everybody's got to make hazy IPAs, then it makes it a far less interesting beer world, that's for sure.
And I'll say that, walking around the shop, we are finding a harder time getting good, fresh examples of a wide variety than we used to. And we can rely on the quality of out-of-market beer less than we could 3 years ago, which is crazy because local beer is so hot right now that people are just going to local beer. But local beer is not fulfilling these other stylistic categories. So the best examples of these are sitting in warehouses, or what's happening more and more is the distributors are saying, well, this is poison. I'm not bringing this stuff in anymore. And then now you have I fear like a style desert, because the only people making it are, it's like can't get there from here. It's like, there's brown ales being made in America. You can't get them in Chicago, though. It's
like any other.
I mean,
shift.
and that's an exaggeration, but yeah.
Like any other shift, I mean, like the pendulum will swing and it will swing back. So, I mean, the hope is that as it homogenizes, one way of differentiating yourself would be to add additional styles, and that you'd see continued movement. I mean, whether it's the Crane's article talking about challenges facing craft beer, or the Crane's article from 2 weeks earlier talking about the number of restaurants and closures and the challenges that Grubhub and other kind of food delivery services pose. Like, the reality is, show me an industry that doesn't have a challenge. And
challenge is fine. Again, homogeneity is a serious risk, and I think that's that's what.
Well, that's what craft beer was fighting. I mean, craft beer came along to fight that. Oh, are you off, Mike? What's up, Serge? Serge, come on.
That's why you saw the one beer to rule them all. After World War II was just because of exactly that. Everyone pushes towards homogeneity. You have the ability to get beer across the country, and then you had one style of beer, and it was loosely based on Pilsner with obviously an American twist and an eye to drinkability. All of those things are true things about the production and physiology constraints that are for sure in play with beer. And I don't think that we're necessarily heading back in that direction. I can't help but obviously have my feelings hurt every time this conversation happens, because we make a tremendous variety of different beers.
You do.
But I agree with you. I think that part of it is that people are feeling the burn of this is actually the mature market in the U.S. We have pressure from all different sides of of the country. We have large regional brewers, small craft brewers, and everyone's just trying to make something that will sell. And I think when that happens, everyone's chasing the same things over and over and over. And I think that it's more than the constraints of what the market will bear. It's a fear-based way of producing beer,
and it doesn't. So
and it's not
fear-driven.
Here's the problem. None of these. Everyone needs to actually sit down and decide what it is that they believe in, because the beer that matters to you will not survive if you don't brew it, and it will not survive if you don't promote it as something that's worth drinking. And let me tell you, a lot of times, certainly throughout my craft beer career and experience, there have been times when I'm like, oh, that's a janky style. I'm not touching that. And then you have one that is exceptional, and you're like, oh, I did not understand the virtues here. I did not understand when and where this should be consumed, and it totally changes your opinion about the style and what a beer could be. And that's the sort of message that's going to have to come across. And the only way that happens is when there are people who are evangelists, and there are people who believe in those beers. And I think about obviously Michael Jackson and what he did for DuPont is a perfect example. of just being like, no, that's what people need to drink, and I think that it's always going to be that.
It's like genres of music. There's good and bad, and everything in between of every genre of music, and it's the same for beer styles.
Well, it's like with jazz. That used to be like hip and counterculture, and then it was just like, oh no, you're just a weird person. Like, go over there and play to no one unless you're Miles Davis. Like that's basically. I don't think that every style is like that, but I do think that essentially, like, maybe the time in this, maybe it's hazy IPA is the peak, but listen, this is still the most consumed beverage in the world, right? So what are we complaining about? Like, we're not trying to make pinotage or some like this is we're I think that beer generally is okay.
I think you have as the market matures, and the implicit growth is not there. I can see it within, say, banking in different markets within the country. Like, you have areas that are growing faster than others, and what happens when you're in a market or a segment that isn't growing as much is that effectively all it turns into poaching. So because there's not growth, there's not new activity. So if you kind of translate that to beer, because it's not growing at the same rate that it has been, the leaps and bounds that it's been growing over the past couple of years, you have effectively every new brewery that comes online where they're getting their clientele from taking it from somewhere else, and that will have the homogeneity aspect of it. It will have the consolidation of styles. And ultimately, I think that's going to lead to, like we talked about with a culling effect.
And even some of these examples we were talking about before where, Mike, you were saying, oh, we're just leaving money on the table. But really that money is just taking it from someone else unless you are converting new people to that style. Right. And I don't think, and I'm using Jester King as an example, I'm not trying to pick on them, but it's not like Jester King is creating new hazy beer drinkers. They are, and so therefore they're just taking them from someone else, which is, that's just how stuff goes. But I think, to what you were saying, Will, I think that might be an issue with some of the fundamental reasons that some of these breweries opened. Was they opened because the segment was exciting and cool and cool to be part of and just kind of the moment, but if you look at some of these older breweries that kind of the craft beer was founded on, it was almost like, yes, there was definitely an acknowledgement that there could be a business made here, but it was also something that these people almost felt like they had to do. Kind of like, John and Andy Crouch are like, well, obviously, if you could have gone away from beer writing, John, I'm guessing you would have done it, but you love it too darn much not to, so you're going to just find a way to do it. And it's not like beer writing's the cool thing, and that's why every writer's getting into it, and there's a difference to it. And I worry now that some of these breweries are, it's not as cool anymore. And now they're like, well, all right, well, I'll just,
good, leave.
We put Snickers in it, I guess now do Milky Way,
honestly, if that's why you're making beer is fundamentally for drinking. Like, that's what you're supposed to be doing. You're actually, like that's.
And I will say, John is sick. So, and he has asked to leave early, and we have not taken a break. We've actually gone way later. So, John, do you want to say we're going to take a break? I think. Sorry to cut you off, Will. I'm not really sorry, but you know that. DJ Surge is ready to come in. Right, we're going to take a quick break. Yeah. John, is there anything you want to say before we go to break?
No, let's all just keep drinking beer and supporting the businesses that we like to support.
And reading excellent publications and listening to
reading
good
excellent publications like Beer Edge.
Yeah, so tell me about that one more time before you go, just for my own personal benefit,
it's,
please.
BeerEdge.com is the newsletter for beer professionals, and there's a podcast that I'm doing called Drink Beer, Think Beer, where it's me one-on-one going deep into the philosophy, business, art, and everything else behind brewing with some interesting folks, including first couple of episodes had some folks from Chicago. So,
thanks for inviting me. I'm based in Chicago, and I'm interesting and thoughtful.
when we're back sometime in March, I just sent you a note about it. We'll get you on.
There you are. All right. Well, apology accepted.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, man. Hope you feel better. Guys, we're going to
Cheers.
take a little music break, and then we'll be back with more of the Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. Another beautiful fade by DJ Surge, who is leaving to allow producer Surge to come back and sit down. We've got John Holl has left, but we still have Sir William Charles Moore. We have the only knighted member of the round table. We have Dan Pische and Mike Siegel still here, and it's well, we didn't really get into the meatiness of the particular Crane's article stuff I wanted to, but hey, maybe we'll do that later. I wanted to talk to you guys about, well, let's see what you guys have to say about this. We accept letters here, either in actual or digital form. And I got one from Niall at Mad Fritz Brewing, friend of the show. We've been enjoying his beer on the show, actually, for the past several weeks. I haven't really talked about it. Sorry, Niall, but he sent me a whole case of beer, so much appreciated. Don't have any here this week, but and oh man, I royally screwed this one up. John Holl was on a panel with this guy, and they did this survey together. And just goes to show how completely inept I am at this show. So the man who just hung up the phone was on a panel with the guy who wrote a letter, and I meant to do it, which is probably like, I'll stick around for a little bit. I was like, he wants to talk about this topic. He's like, no, I want to talk about the survey I was on. Oh, I feel terrible. And on top of it, now the internet has crapped out. Why, Surge? Fix the internet, Surge. What are you doing, man?
What was the meat of it?
No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. I mean, Surge. The meat of the survey was essentially.
I actually clicked through it a day or two ago, but I can't remember now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, neither can I, which is why I'm trying to pull it up. But you know what? I think maybe what I'll do is I can spitball. Here's one thing I had for if there's literally any time left in the show, we never get to these topics. I found it interesting. Ars Technica, of all places, had an article about tapping on the top of a can, which I'm sure we've all done that, right? I assume. Have you? You do it, right? Do you still do it? You never have, never did. Okay, knew that would happen eventually.
Yes.
I always did as well. Yet, there was a time in my life where I was doing it. I don't know when that stopped, but it does absolutely nothing. It does nothing tapping on the top of a can to open it up to prevent it from, I guess, foaming up. I don't even know what the supposed benefit was supposed to be, but it's been proven that if you tap on it or open it directly, nothing happens. So that's why, late stage capitalism, there's nothing else to do. So just spend money to run a experiment to see if tapping on the top of a can does anything, and it does nothing. Are you shocked by that, Will? you're well known. I mean, that's kind of your thing, tapping on cans. So how do you identify now?
Typically,
as
yes.
a person.
That's not as much as my grandmother, who tapped on the top of cans for 25 years on the PBR line to make sure that the seals and seams were correct. But yes, I've tapped on a few cans. I'd like to do more of a slap to let the can know who's boss. Just like, listen, I'm drinking you now. This is happening. But I'm glad that someone put that to rest once and for all. And I don't think that's the last time that you'll have it, because habit is really what we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what you should be doing these days is squeezing the can.
yes.
Low fill.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so really, I'm more listening when I pop it. Like, okay, because you can hear immediately, like, how well was this packaged?
We've all got that back from that like upstart brewery where you squeeze some of the cans and like, whoa, that really dented into.
Or beyond that, you just have like the sound of emptiness. As soon as you open it, just like, oh, the disappointment.
Well, I will say the internet has completely gone out, so I can't pull up any info.
What are you going to do?
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you why I'm the host of this show, and that I'm limber and can figure out what to talk about around beers. So let me... I'll do it. So everyone is now on their phone staring down, which is a...
You said the internet was gone.
Everyone had to pull it up for you.
No. It's fine. Everybody... I don't want it.
Here.
Yeah, I don't want it.
I got it here.
I don't want it.
Okay.
I don't want it. On my computer, or this computer, it's down.
Do you predict there will be more or fewer beer styles available in 10 years?
Ooh.
10 years from now.
What do you think,
More.
Dan? More? I think more, only because I'm an optimist, despite what every episode of this show tends to show. And I don't know how. I mean, I certainly hope there's more. It really saddens me that there are more beer styles available, I felt, when we opened the shop than there are now.
Maybe available is the wrong word, and like thriving. Like how many beer styles can thrive versus like, I'd say most beer styles are generally still available, right. A smoked porter.
There used to be like crazy stuff like.
But how many are actually thriving? How many breweries can thrive on more kind of fringe styles? Again, the point of like some of these farmhouse breweries that are now making hazy IPAs.
Right. But there was this beer, Not Stock, from Wisconsin, that was a pale ale with black tea in it that people liked, and it had a little following, and people dug it. There were Rocky's Revenge was a brown ale with portions of barrel aging in it. There were these little niche beers that people enjoyed, and those beers just... I don't even know if it's because the desire isn't there from the community. It's one, maybe people don't know about it, and two, distribution is so overwhelmed with brands now that they're just.
And I think that's the key difference is the taproom model has gotten so huge. You go to a taproom, and most breweries that have a smaller brewery or are a smaller brewery can do a bunch of one-offs and have the more esoteric styles on, and just keep that rotating. And that's fantastic, I think. I think what you see in package is really what they feel like they're going to bank on as far as styles, right? Mm-hmm. But tap rooms are hopefully a place where you can still see, particularly in the Midwest, I think, a wide range. We're not caught up in this, like, everything's got to be hopped up like the West Coast. We like our hops, but I think we like a broad range of styles here in the Midwest. We always have. So... but that's my feel. And again, this is coming from the guy who hasn't been to a lot of tap rooms the last couple of years.
Yeah, so your opinion.
But I'm hoping that you guys have been out. Brewery tap rooms are a place where there's more diversity at play.
I mean, Treehouse still does an ESB in package. Which
how many dry hop editions are there?
No, it's. I mean, I think like even when you think of somebody who's known for making hazy IPAs, the fact that they still package an ESB gives hope to the idea.
That's probably a passion project to somebody.
Absolutely.
They make a lot of money on something that does really well, and then you can fund your passion projects, just like the Obadiah Poundage, that Chris hosted for me. That beer didn't make any money. The beer with Ron Pattinson I'm talking about. But
if I'm associated with it, it's guaranteed to not have made any money. That's just a general rule that listeners know. What are some of the other questions on there?
Yeah, so, and most people agreed in the survey that more. Since we're going off a survey. Do you find yourself brand/brewery loyal?
Well, and people said generally yes, they did. Mm-hmm. I think those people are kidding themselves. I think brand loyalty is.
How do you define brand loyalty?
Right.
That's a good question. Yeah,
I would say regular repurchase. Like if we're talking about packaged retail, regular repurchase. Are you going to buy Sierra Nevada 6-pack every 2 weeks?
You know what? I'll take it back. I think people are brand loyal now, but I think brand loyalty is no longer lifelong. It's not your grandma.
This is actually answered in the next question in the survey, which is very obvious when you think about it.
What's the next question?
Oh, very good. Well, if yes, is your brand loyalty based on A, trusting the quality, B, the brewery messaging, C, location, D, other? And the overwhelming response here is, well,
what?
Quality.
Beer Temple guy.
Quality.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can even think of times that, I come in from out of town, go to your shop. I usually bring beers back with me to Miami that I am generally buying from the same handful of breweries at your shop every single time to bring back to Miami. Mm-hmm. So, but it's not single. It's not, one brand for life.
You're not a hams man.
So
no, I mean, my father will come over to my house and, go like, oh, you don't have anything. I'm like, okay.
My old man is High Life.
Yeah.
Like we should start just chiseling it into the tombstone. Drink High Life. Previous to 1989, drank Old Style.
Right. So I think really I think now what it is it's for craft beer drinkers. It's, are you brands loyal? Because I don't think there's not a High Life man. Because if you are, you're not really you drink craft beer because your beer happens to be a craft beer, but you're not like a craft beer drinker in a different sense of the word. Because part of it is to love beer in its variety,
right?
And it's not about being I'm a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale guy, and I don't care what other beers are made because I only want to drink that beer, no matter what's out there. That's not really at the heart of being a lover of craft beer.
You think of being a foodie, but only going to one restaurant,
right?
It's like, I mean, like the whole kind of concept of it is that you are trying. I mean, to the extent food, I don't like that term, but just that you are trying different experiences, different restaurant, different cuisines.
So the next question was. Do you find yourself purchasing less beer from your liquor store and more directly from the brewery?
Let me guess. More from the liquor store.
Fitty.
Let me guess.
It's pretty close. It's almost 50-50.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's actually...
it's more taproom.
More taproom than... I mean, slightly.
Yeah.
Like 55-45.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I think that'll change as more of the breweries... So if you look at the growing breweries who are now... putting on production facilities, there are several here in the Chicagoland area, and that they will then naturally have to distribute, whereas they might have been able to sell outside of the tap room directly. So that I think the scales will shift back to your liquor store or your beer store because you just
if they
don't
still
have
exist.
to well,
exactly.
I think
it's same with styles. Same with styles. Like if it goes too long,
these small retailers aren't going to just hang around until the
but
waves change.
I think it depends on what type of small retailer we're talking about, right? Because But
if there's not enough, then you can't go to distribution.
You've got a well-curated, thoughtful place like Chris's. You got the majority are just corner liquor stores that do serve, that have changed with the times. You can get, local and regional craft at them.
Nobody's going to go to distribution because of the Beer Temple and the Open Bottle and 3 places around Chicago.
Fair.
You know, so it's like these places have to survive for distribution to be a model.
Well, if they don't survive, then where does the production go?
Right. It doesn't.
You
So
know,
it just becomes.
I think
it becomes like a wine model, like Ray Daniels
Direct
said,
market,
a year ago or something. It's like that's what craft beer is going to be.
subscription.
It's just going to be this little thing, and that would kind of suck, man, because that's not beer, or I guess it could be bars, but who knows? Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Way to bring things down by getting the internet, Mike.
Well.
Appreciate it.
This is your internet.
That is a
your information here.
Yeah, no, I'm joking.
that's a very. Oh, go ahead.
How many different beer styles do you find yourself drinking over the course of an average week?
Ooh, okay. I'll answer. Let me think about this for a moment. I would say. For me, it's probably close to 10, but that's not normal.
I would say around a dozen. That sounds right.
Yeah. So you Berliner.
Do adjuncts in pastry stouts?
Yeah, exactly. How many different adjuncts in your pastry stouts
adjunct
do
is
you
a
drink?
Combinations.
Yes.
So no, candy bars are one.
Just
style.
vanilla coconut.
Right.
Okay, let's not get started on vanilla. Who got us started on that?
Right. Zing. How about you guys? How many? Mike doesn't go out, so.
Well, but just
He
if
lives-
I never left to work,
he's a
I'd still
troll.
drink
Yeah,
12 different styles a week.
I'm 2 or 3.
2 or 3. And what are those? It's pastry stouts, barrel aged stouts,
Haze whales.
and haze whales.
No, it's actually just German pilsners. I have an IPA once in a while, and then stout would probably be I guess barley wine. Maybe you're saying 4, but in general, it's a lot of pilsners. That's
Because
me.
the greatest style.
Beer flavored beer.
I've been
Beer
pulling away
flavored
from
beer.
I've been pulling away from pills lately.
But
Yeah,
I'm waiting.
I'm actually trying to act tough. I'm much more likely to drink just a regular lager because pills is just a little hoppy for my delicate tongue. Just can't quite do it.
When can we get pastry pills?
Pastry pills has already happened. I don't know if you've
I-
heard. There's someone local that put truffles in pills, and that was the first step. Now we're just going to put an entire cake. We're going to ruin something beautiful. That's the most important part.
I don't think we have time for any more of the survey stuff. But thank you, Niall. Maybe we'll, when the internet is back up, officially, not on some little handheld.
Who needs
device.
the internet?
Yeah. Well, guys, any final remarks that you'd like to say? We'll go in order of seniority.
I would like to just give a shout out to the Long Room for 20 years of wonderful
tonight, right?
service to craft beer on the north side of Chicago. Well done, gents.
Very nice, Dan.
I think 2020 will be a very interesting year. The general headwinds of the economy are going to actually start coming to bear on the industry, and I think if we were having this conversation 1 year from now, we're not going to be talking about 236. We're going to be talking. It's going to be a very eye-opening year for the industry, so I'm being optimistic.
Don't fear the Reaper, Mike. Anything that you can see from your little cave in there?
Looking to change fewer diapers in 2020.
Oh, good.
That's my ultimate goal.
Okay. Put more onto your wife. I get it. Nice. Very nice.
Enjoy.
It doesn't have to be a prediction. I'm just saying, what do you want to say before we leave?
Yeah. No. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Yeah.
Finally, somebody knows how to end a show by thanking me.
Thank you,
thank
Serge.
you guys.
I'm sorry. What I meant to say was you're welcome.
Exactly. Thank you guys so much. I want to thank all my guests and thank my listeners and thank DJ Serge and producer Serge for everything tonight. We will see you next week for more of the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. So long.
Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never never be heard or seen from again, 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 again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said.